2020 for coming. I apologize for being a little bit late. Do we have a motion to come out of closed session?
I move that the school board, having been in closed session pursuant to a proper motion, come out of the closed session.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Do we have a motion for certification?
Whereas the Franklin City School Board has convened a closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such closed meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. And now therefore be it resolved that the Franklin City School Board hereby certifies that, to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted by Virginia law were discussed in the closed meeting to which this certification applies. And two, only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Again, welcome to everyone. Would you please join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I think we have one motion from closed session. That is to approve our personnel agenda, less items 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Do we have
11.
that motion?
11, 12, and 13
And
also.
11, 12, and 13. Thank you.
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Do we have a motion to approve our agenda?
I move to approve the agenda.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. That motion carries. Roll call. Ms. Davis, please.
Ms. Boone,
Here.
Ms. Council,
Here.
Ms. Parker, Dr. Scott, Mr. Holt,
Here?
Ms. Powell,
Here.
Ms. Johnson,
Here.
Dr. Carter.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. We have item 3.1, school board minutes for our November 9th meeting. That's the first reading, so we'll vote on that next meeting. We also have minutes for our December 7th meeting. We'll vote on that for our next meeting. Item 3.3, SOL retake policy. Dr. Carter.
Ms. Ratton?
Good evening, Mr. Holt, School Board. This is a policy that I updated, or I guess kind of really created for our expedited retakes after a conversation with the state. The state gives us permission without permission from Dr. Carter to retest any child 375 to 399. The next category is that 350 to 374, which is considered extenuating circumstances. And to test a student in extenuating circumstances right now, I have to ask Dr. Carter's permission. And the state advised me that if we had it in policy that it was approved by the board, we would not have to get Dr. Carter's permission every time we wanted to test a child in that extenuating circumstances category. In my opinion, any student that is falling into those categories listed, like foster care or homelessness are already living in an extenuating circumstance. So we should be able to just give them a second chance without having to go through the paperwork and waiting for Dr. Carter's approval. So if you have any questions, I'm here for them. If you're in favor of it, we can vote tonight. If not, we can have it as a first read and come back after discussion.
What is the pleasure of the board? Consider this as a first reading or vote tonight?
I'm sorry, and I'm apologizing. Can you just repeat that? I'm
Yes,
very
ma'am.
sorry.
Yes, ma'am. So the state gives us permission for any student from 375 to 399, I can retest them for any reason. The next category is what they consider extenuating circumstances. And for extenuating circumstances, I have to have Dr. Carter's permission to retest those students. So after a discussion with the state, they advised me that if it was policy approved by the board, I would not have to go through the process of getting Dr. Carter's permission every time. And so I put together the policy. There you can see with letter C that the student failed the test with a score of 350 to 375 and has a documented extenuating circumstance. So that means that we're already aware that they have some sort of situation in their home life or in their personal life that could qualify them as an extenuating circumstance. We would be able to retest them without having to wait for Dr. Carter's approval.
I have a question. Is there a reason why the state requires permission, or why there would be permission needed? Like, is there a max number of times that a student can test within a period of time before they have to, like, wait?
An expedited retake is only, you take the test and then that second chance. So it has to come with remediation and it has to be within the same assessment period. So it's not like a student that is retesting because they failed the test or they failed the course and they're testing again and again. It's a very short amount of time. It's within that original assessment window. So sometimes we only have a week, maybe two at the most, and during that time we have to provide remediation. So if we're waiting for Dr. Carter's approval, we can't start the process of getting ready, of registering them for the test. It just makes it a more streamlined.
Right, I understand. I'm just wondering why the state would ever require permission for this. Like, I don't understand the reasoning behind it. For instance, I know that there are some standardized assessments, like once you've taken the test 3 times, you cannot take it for a period of time, and so you have to look at, like, is it beneficial to give it to a student? So
I understand.
if there's no reason why, then what is the purpose for this? Like, why are they doing this?
Right, so in one assessment window, they can only take it twice. So the first time is the time they failed it, and then the extenuating circumstance or the retake is the second time. So they can only take it twice in that assessment window.
Okay, so if we're not giving that permission, they're not taking it the second time anyway.
Correct.
So I can only see this as a win-win.
I move
So
to
can I.
approve it tonight.
I second.
Yes. Sorry.
That was easy.
Well, thank you.
I guess we get to vote.
Do we have we do have a motion to,
And a second.
and a second. You guys better shape up.
We are just in favor of the policy.
I don't see how it can hurt.
All right. Are you ready for the vote?
Yes.
Is it okay with you two?
Yes.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
I feel like I'm supposed to raise
Opposed,
my
no.
hand. You did too.
Motion carries. Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
I think this is a great idea.
Yes.
Let's give our kids a chance.
That's not paperwork for you, right?
Oh, we have several good news items. Dr. Carter.
Oh, wow. She was here. She was here, I told her.
I would like, I guess, let's just stand to the side so I can understand. That's right, I can see it. I would like to introduce Alani. She is a sixth grade member of our morning show, and she is TV crew for J.P. King in middle school, and she was a very small hand-picked group of students with both 6th and 7th graders selected to be members of this crew. The morning show goes live on air from Zoom to all classes. It's live at J.P. King Middle School each morning at 7:35 a.m. It consists of the Pledge of Allegiance and moment of silence, birthday announcements, current school activities, and sporting events, as well as the special announcements from Franklin Public Schools J.P. King administration. Lonnie serves as my lead student for the sixth grade morning show, and that's from Mr. Frank Davis. But we also would like to honor Alani for special recognition. And it reads, Alani Williams, in recognition of your selection from among hundreds of student applicants to participate in the West Point Middle School STEM Workshop, we wish to extend our heartfelt congratulations. Your selection underscores your strong, earnest aptitude in science, technology, engineering, math, as well as your readiness for challenging coursework. Your ability to think critically and solve complex problems has distinguished you, and it is highly valued. We are immensely proud of your achievement and congratulate you on earning this prestigious honor. Your dedication and hard work have truly set you apart, and we look forward to seeing you for the great things you have accomplished. So congratulations, Alani.
Dr. Carter. Along, Mr. Davis and Dr. Manley and
Those who are here to
Mr.
support
Hicks.
Alani, come up.
Yes, definitely. This picture. That's so cool. Yes, it is, definitely.
All right, next good news, Ms. Davis?
yes. Just a second. Computer's running a little slow.
All right, so we have, is Zaharia Russell? Zaharia, come on up. Ms. Peterson, come on up. So, Ms. Peterson, okay, so Ms. Peterson brought this to Zaharia's attention and said over Christmas break, offered an extra assignment to the kids, and we had 10 kids in the competition, and one was selected to represent FCPS in our district. Zaharia was named in the top 10 applicants selected. Her name is Zaharia Russell. She got a phone call from the Beat sharing that she was selected for competition, which is April 20th in Jamestown. And so the B, as you can see, is the National Civics B. It is an annual competition that encourages young Americans to engage in civics and contribute to their communities. Participating 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students flex their civics knowledge for a chance to win recognition and cash prizes in partnership with the local and state chambers of commerce across the country. The 3rd annual National Civics Meet is taking place in 2024. Students may enter the competition by submitting an and I say online, applicants are still open in some places, including Alaska, Ohio, Idaho, and Mississippi. This year, state champs will travel to Washington, D.C. to compete for national title on Tuesday, November 12th, coming up. So we have something special for you. It says, in recognition of your selection to represent our school at the upcoming civics meeting, this selection is a testament to your hard work, dedication, and passion for understanding and engaging in civic matters. Your commitment to excellence not only makes you stand out as an individual, but also brings pride to our school and community. We extend our sincerest congratulations to you for achieving this honor. Congratulations. There is one other I forgot to give before we go.
Mr. Hicks and Mr. Manley.
All right, and
Yes, gotta go back, Mr. Manley, got to squeeze in everybody.
is the other young lady still? All right. Our next piece of good news is Rashonda Hoskey. All right. Good to see you again. young man. All right. So, in recognition, your remarkable achievement in winning the Paul D. Camp Community College Poet Laureate title within the Virginia Community College system is as a dual enrollment student at Franklin High School. We extend our sincerest congratulations. This prestigious honor is bestowed upon poets who have demonstrated exceptional ability and have the potential to make significant contributions to the field of poetry within the community and within the community college system. Your recognition is not only a testament to your individual talent in poetry, but also serves to highlight the critical role of literacy arts within the educational system. Congratulations. Would you like to say something?
Dr. Carter.
Yes, go.
Those portfolios should go with you to your competitions.
She also is part of our strategic plan team. Nice. So I want to thank her for her service.
Student success is what we're all here for, and these are very positive signs. So congratulations to everyone.
And thank you for actually representing our Franklin school system. We really appreciate you. The school board really appreciates this. So thank you very much.
And can I add that Rashawn has been awarded full scholarship, academic.
Woo! Yes! Go ahead! Yes! That's a standing ovation. Yes!
Thought she was going to VCU, but Oklahoma State came through with a full ride.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Quite an honor. Thank you, Mr. Phelps, for adding that. Dr. Walters.
Good evening, Mr. Holt, board members. I'm excited to keep the good news rolling. So,
Come on.
in partnership with our roofing contractor Garland, I'm excited to be able to announce this month's ABCD award winner, one of our bus drivers, Miss Barbara Murphy. The nomination reads, for over 25 years, Ms. Barbara Murphy has been transporting FCPS students to and from school to and from athletic practices and events, and on many field trips. In 1998, when I joined the FCPS team as a teacher and coach, Ms. Murphy noticed that I and the other coaches were transporting students to and from practices and games. She volunteered to drive the bus to the coaches to help the coaches and the students who did not have a ride to and from FHS. For many years, she did not get paid for doing this. She did it to help the students who were in need of transportation. She still serves the students and families of Franklin with love and kindness. She is always willing to take a child home, even if it's not on her route. She welcomes all students on her bus, but they know not to act up on bus 24. Miss Murphy is a blessing to the students of FCPS. She is loved and respected by all who truly know her. Congratulations, Miss Barbara Murphy.
Thank you, and congratulations again to everyone. Superintendent's report. Dr. Carter, please.
All right, Ms. Morrison, financial report.
Good evening, Dr. Carter, School Board. I have a very brief report tonight. This is going to be the March 31st, 2024 financial results. In our general fund, of course, 75% of the year is gone, and we've spent 66% of our expenditures and collected 67% of our revenues. Again, we do have operations and maintenance, transportation slightly over forecast, but we will have underages in other line items that will cover that nicely. And when I come to the next board meeting, I'll have a projection of May and June and where we're going to end up the year this year. We do not anticipate having a huge rollover this year. The projections are looking like they're coming in right at budget. Next slide. Not much activity in the textbook fund. The nutrition fund, I think, was over budgeted. We estimated too many meals, but the deficit there is intentional. The Virginia Department of Education requires that we have only 3 months or less of cash reserves on hand, and so we were notified that we needed to reduce our fund balance on that, so that was intentional. Federal grants, we've collected 48% of those reimbursements, and we've spent 41% of the expenditures. A little misleading being that there's more than one grant year represented here. Next slide. So that brings us overall to 58% collected and 55% expended. Any questions? Okay. The next thing will be the March 2024 vouchers. If you could flip through those slowly, Ms. Davis. That is all. Questions on the vouchers? Thank you.
Ms. Tompkins.
Good evening, everyone, board members, as well as the community and my colleagues in the audience. I want to provide to you our presentation for the annual special education grant for the 24-25 school year. We are required by law to present our annual plan to the school board for approval before we send it to VDOE in the month of May. So some background information that I will be reviewing with you today will be the purpose of our grant, the grant application process, allowable funds, and grant-supported programs like our CCEIS, which is the Comprehensive Coordinated Early Intervening Services. Next slide, please. So we are required by law to provide services for students who have been identified as having disabilities. We also have to certify the funds that we receive from the state, how we will use them to ensure that our early intervention services continue to happen and that our students who have IEPs get the services that are required by law within the IEP. And all of those funds have to be used in compliance with IDEA. Okay, next slide, please. So here's our grant process. December 1 count, we have verified the number of students with disabilities that Franklin City Public Schools serve. We have 120 students with disabilities, and we have 42 students who receive services under our 504 plan. The maintenance of effort, we have to certify our portion of monies that we will use to support students with disabilities. That happened on April 9th. We reviewed our annual plan with our SEAC committee on April the 16th, and tonight I'm presenting you this same plan tonight for our board approval. So what are some funds that we can use? How can we use these funds? We can use it for personnel services, employee benefits, purchase services, materials and supplies, internal services, and capital outlay. But we have specific areas by which we use the funds. So here's the award for the 23-24 school year. As you can see, the projection, a little over $400,000. We have to allot a certain amount of money for our students in our pre-K program who have special needs, and that's a little over $16,000. Our flow-through is a little over $300,000, and what we use for comprehensive services programs is over $58,000. So what are our major categories? Our major categories are personnel services and employee benefits, how we pay those folks who support our students, materials and supplies, and any interventions that we use to support students with disabilities. Next slide, please. So what is our comprehensive coordinated early intervention services? One of the things that we have to do is with our Child Find program is to see what students in our communities who might have a disability, and how do we work with those students? How do we first find those students in our communities? What are we doing to advertise to let our community know that we do have systems and processes in place to support them? So we use that money for those services. We have been identified as being overrepresented in two areas. One is suspending students with disabilities, and that means more than over 10 days within a school year. And there's also been an over-identification of African American students with an intellectual disability. And the monies that we receive are to ensure that we are not disproportionate, and we need to put some systems and processes in place. So this grant is used to support that work. And none of this work could be done without the wonderful team that we have here in Franklin City Public Schools. We got together and worked as a collective team to ensure that our students have the services that they need. And as you can see, those folks in our division who were a part of helping pull this annual plan together, our child find process, as well as our comprehensive coordinated services. So I'm requesting that based on this presentation and the monies that are allotted by the state for students with disabilities, that you would approve this plan and that we are able to submit on time our annual plan for the 24-25 school year. Any questions?
Could you repeat the number of students that are receiving special education?
We have 120 students with disabilities and 42, and this is division-wide. This is all students who have some type of accommodation when in our 504 plan.
Is there a record or report that reveals how many years Franklin City Public Schools have had an overrepresentation either for discipline or African American students labeled as intellectually disabled?
Yes, ma'am, there is a plan, because each year when you complete what's called the CCEIS, which is that Comprehensive Coordinated Intervening Services Plan, it identifies what your disproportionalities are. And the one that I looked at for the 23-24, which is this current year, we were identified in those two areas.
And are you aware of what that previous record has looked like?
No, ma'am, I am not.
Did you get that information, previous reporting?
I have looked at the 23-24 school year. I don't have the previous years.
Who would have that, do you know?
I certainly can look to find them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question. Just because a number is disproportionate, that doesn't necessarily indicate that there's any wrongdoing. It just means that in this particular area, our findings are higher. But it could be that it's because it's supported, the information is supported. Is that correct?
Right. It could be that it is that data supports it, but it also means that we may have to do additional screening to determine if a student being identified with a disability, is that their least restrictive environment?
Right. We need to go back and make sure.
Correct.
that-
Correct.
right.
Because we still may be over-identified, due to a disability, but at least we've done and we have exhausted all of our resources to make sure that this student does have a disability that requires them to be identified as a SPED student.
Right. For anyone who's not familiar with some of the terminology, it can sound daunting.
Yeah.
And, when you hear overrepresentation and there's these findings, I thank you for clarifying
Sure.
that, because I want to make sure that people understand that sometimes that doesn't mean that we're doing anything wrong. It just means that we're going back and looking at things to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do for the students that need the services.
Sure.
And that they're getting the services that we need.
Yes.
I do have another question. So I know that you said that it's throughout the division, and sometimes we have to get services from other sources, such as CSAP. So
Yes.
does some of this grant money go to pay for some of those services that our students with disabilities receive from CSAP?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
When do we actually start the studies of these children? When they come in September, January, February, March?
So the first screening starts when we identify students for our pre-K, our Bright Starts program. So this year, what we have done is during the registration process, we not only register them, they go in one room for registration, and that same day they are being screened, and the parents are aware of the screening. So if we find a child, because the whole point of the CCEIS is to ensure that we get early intervention, so that students may be identified as needing speech, or they may be identified as needing some type of other service. That doesn't mean that that's where they stay for the rest of their lives, because if we intervene early, we're going to be able to hopefully give them what they need so that they exit out of the program. So we do start very early, and that's at pre-K. And then if there is a parent recommendation, if there are students in a classroom where a teacher notices something, so this happens all the time. It's a fluid process.
That's
So
why I'm asking, because the scenario came up that way, and my question was going to be the communications between you and the teacher and the parent. So is the parent to come to you, or is the teacher actually to put a referral in to come to you? Like, how does that work?
it can be anyone. It could be a teacher. It could be the parent who comes to us and says, hey, you know, I'm looking at my child. I'm looking at the grades. I'm working with him or her at home. They can also come to us and say, I'd like my child to be tested.
With that being said, and I'm just asking because I was given a scenario in the beginning of the end of last week where a parent actually came to me and she was told by the child's teacher when she asked about her child being tested for IEP, the teacher responded to her, you need to start that on your own. So how does that work? I'm not understanding that. That's why I asked, so does a referral come to you from the teacher, or does the parent actually have to reach out to you?
No,
because
no.
They don't have an understanding.
Each school has a person on campus who oversees their special education process. So
Okay.
if there's a teacher or if there's a parent, the teacher, if you know, the teachers may not all know what the process is, but if they have, if a child has some kind of deficiency that needs to be addressed, that process can be started at the school level, and then a meeting is held, and then we can begin to determine whether or not that child meets the burden that they need to meet in order for them to go through the screening process. So it's not something that the parent has to start on their own. The teacher can help facilitate that process. So that may have been some misinformation that a teacher may not know, because new teachers may not know what the special education process. And that's one of the reasons why we are going to, moving forward, really help develop our child find process and informational sessions so that teachers in the community understand how you refer if you feel like your child has some type of deficiency, and how do we help. So I think it's more of information and
Right.
training to help with that.
So with that being said, I can pass on the number for the office for her to actually get in contact with you?
You certainly can, and then I can put them in touch with that IEP team at the school level. I can help facilitate
Okay.
that process.
Okay. All right.
That's
Thank
no
you.
problem. You're welcome.
Okay, so I have a couple more questions. I know that you said we start young at the preschool age.
Yes.
But actually, how young do they start for school?
A child can, according to what I've read about the child find process, the child can be tested as early as 2 years old.
Right, so it's the school's responsibility, I think at 3, right? Is it?
Yes.
Right, at 3. So things have changed, I'm sure, in the past 15 years. But as an educator, from the educator's perspective, I knew everything that I needed to do to help a child who had a 504 or an IEP. But when I was in the position as a parent, I knew not what to do for my child who needed services. And when he was young, I knew that he had a speech delay. And this was long before you all were here. This administration did not exist. But I couldn't find him help. And what can we do for the kids who aren't getting screened to go to Bright Starts, because they're already 4 and almost 5?
Yes.
But what can we as a school division do better to reach out to the parents of those 3-year-olds, for those parents that are noticing that their children aren't speaking or aren't doing what they need to do? Because as a school division, they're our responsibility as well. And I don't know the answer to that.
Well, the answer to that is one of the things that we've been working on, and that's to have a clearly defined child find process where we are out in the community having these conversations with parents, with community partners, to really find those students, because it's really called child find, where we are finding those students. And I will just say that I'm not sure if that is clearly understood, which is why we have spent some time redoing redefining, putting systems and processes in place to really strengthen that process. So we are working on that as we speak.
Okay, I look when I go to pediatrician's office with my kids, I look at stores, I keep looking for things even though it's been 15 years, because I'm looking to see if things are easier to find. And I know that I see the Child Find screenings for the kids that are going into Bright Starts, but I don't know that parents, not even just here in Franklin, but across the state or anywhere, know that they can get help from school systems as young as 3. So if we could lead that, then that might be something that would be beneficial for the kids in our community as well. So not just for the teachers that might not know that anybody can refer a child. It can be a teacher, it can be a parent, it can be a concerned citizen. Hey, I've witnessed this student or this child that might need help. Another teacher who's familiar with a child can go to somebody on the special education team or whomever and say, I think this child might need to be referred.
Yeah.
Like, can't anybody reach out?
Yes.
Isn't that the way that, yeah,
Yes.
anybody can reach out
Yes.
to
Yes.
help a child.
So, and I will say, and I want to thank publicly Ms. Mona Murphy as well as Ms. Maureen Mahoney for their efforts in the community to even get our Bright Start participants, because we are almost full now at this stage in the game, and that's something that hasn't happened from what I looked. I am completing the application to increase our numbers, because we are going to be full we only have 45 slots. Right now, we have 37 who are registered, and we are going to fill those slots. So it's through the efforts of those folks that I just named, Ms. Murphy, who put these posters out in the community, Ms. Mahoney, who had flyers, and as you could see, all of those nice little yard signs all around the community. Those were things that helped us get the word out, and we will continue to do those things and use our folks in our school division to increase that. But it's one step at a time, and we are working really hard to get those things done.
That's good news.
Yes. Okay.
Well, you have an all-star team, and you've done a quality job. So I'll ask the board, do we have a motion to approve Special Education Annual Plan 2024 through 25?
I so move.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Ricks.
All right, good evening, board
Good evening.
and community. All right, tonight I will be presenting, and I'm excited to present this, and I also want to thank our committee, but I will be presenting the FCPS Highly Quality Work-Based Learning Guidelines. And this opportunity will be for our 24-25 school year, and it will be for our juniors and seniors who are on the graduation track. They will be able to apply for early release to be able to go into the workforce. This opportunity will be a collaboration of approval by our principal, our work-based learning coordinator, and also our school counselor. So we have 3 categories where students will be offered a work-based learning opportunity. We have a study-related, as you can see there, students that are pursuing a program and they own a specific college track. We have a career-related track, where they are able to choose or select a career that they are interested in during their high school year. And also we have a family hardship related track, where we have those students that are on that successful track, but they may have that job to support their family or to support themselves as they are traveling through their journey throughout high school. So we want to make sure that we honor that request as well. All right, so for those mentorships, internships, or entrepreneurships, students must complete a minimum of 280 hours. That's pretty much equivalent to 2 blocks, because you know at the high school they have 4 blocks. So they can either spend 2 blocks in the morning or 2 blocks pretty much in the afternoon. And the work-based coordinator works with them around their schedule and works with the businesses as well to work out how that specific plan looks. Also with the colleges, or we're working through establishing partnerships with the can't think of it right now, but I want to say it. Shipyards, thank you. The shipyards in Newport News, I'm just excited about it, and also Norfolk. So we are excited about those opportunities as we're working and we're having meetings with them as well. So to be able to extend it just beyond Franklin and give them that exposure that's over in other cities as well. So they will have 1 work-based learning credit, which equals 280 hours. And we, again, will begin this full implementation of these opportunities for our students that are on that graduation track from 11th and 12th grade through the 24-25 school year. So we are excited about this, and this course when Mr. Phelps present the August course guide, this course will be added into that guide for students 24-25. That's it. Thank you.
I'm
Any
pretty
questions?
excited about this program. I just want to say, well done.
Thank you, Dr. Ricks. Sure.
All right, Mr. Holt, that concludes our report.
Thank you, sir. No one signed up for citizens' time, so we'll go to school board comments or announcements. Board members, what do you have?
Just really proud of the kids that came tonight that are excelling in amazing and awesome ways. I think they've all left. No, I think they've all left. They hightailed it out of here, but that's just something to really be proud of. Really excited about that.
Well, I'd like to put somebody on the spot tonight, but we talked about a truancy officer that actually hits the beat, the streets, as if they are a patrol officer. It's Ashley right there. She is the young lady that I commended tonight, and I thank you for doing what you're doing to the students in our community, in our city, and everything else. I really appreciate. They don't go by the house anymore, let's put it that way. That's Miss Ashley's house, she can't see us. So, but Miss Ashley has done a tremendous, great job. She has actually gone to children's homes, knocked on doors, talked to parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, cousins. Miss Ashley just came to us from Texas, and she is well known in the community because she put herself out there. So I appreciate you, Miss Ashley. Miss B, sorry, Miss B.
Truancy is a problem all over the state, and we've certainly dealt with that as well. Mm-hmm. But we've had major improvements.
Yes, we have.
In the last year, so thank you.
Yes.
Anything else? If not, do we have a motion for adjournment?
I so move.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.